We're going to color them in, but along the way, we're going to learn how to use grouping, arranging, what isolation mode is, all sorts of fun stuff. Let's get started. All right, let's look at grouping, arranging. We're also going to color them in. If that sounds real simple, hang around because there's things like isolation mode that you really need to understand before moving on. All right, so first up, let's turn off our trace layer. Okay, it was useful for getting us here, but we don't need it anymore. So under your layers panel, let's just turn the eyeball off. Okay, or this like little icon here, the first icon in the layers panel, we don't need it anymore. You can click on it and hit the trash can way down the bottom here. Okay, and that'll just get rid of it. I'm just gonna leave mine there, I'm gonna undo, just turn it off. So let's first of all look at grouping and then isolation mode. So I'm zooming in, I want to do a couple of things. I want to grab my pentagon and I want to give it black fill. So I'm going to click on fill, make it black. I'm going to give the stroke a none color. We have a small problem as in our star. You can see if I use my black arrow, I can just hover above and eventually find my star by just clicking the little blue line that appears. It's there, but because it's black on black and it has no center, it can't be seen. So let's have a look at fixing that. So stroke, I don't want any stroke on it. And the fill, I would like this option here for white. Cool. So I want to group these two. So I need to select both of them. So I'm going to click sometimes you can't click both. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. It makes it a little easier to click individual items when they're really close. So I've clicked on my pentagon. Okay, I'm going to hold shift and click on my star. So I've got them both selected. So what I want to do is group them so that they kind of stick together. Okay, so I can go up to object and go to this one that says group. There it is at the top. All that means now is if I click off in the background and I click back on just either one of them, they're both kind of connected. It's not forever. Okay, I can go to select and go to ungroup and that will separate them up again. But that's how to group them. Grouping is handy. One thing you will run into is something called isolation mode. And this is where most people get lost in Illustrator. The people that I teach, quite a few of them are double clickers. They love double clicking stuff. So what happens is, I know, we know from lots of programs you got to double click things. But if you double click things in Illustrator, everything goes wrong. So watch this. If I double click the star, double click. Okay, what happens is it's weird. The background grays out and I can still work on these guys, but I can't work on the background anymore. All that's happened is you've entered something called isolation mode. The way to really tell is up the top here. Can you see this thing? This gray bar here didn't appear before. I'm going to go back out of it by clicking this arrow twice. Okay, so I'm back out of it. Watch it. It'll appear up here. I'll move so it's easier to see. If I double click on this, this little bar appears and everything else that's not in that group is kind of blanked out. Why do we have it? It's mainly to confuse everybody that I'm teaching, but it actually has a really good use. It means that when I'm back out of here, so I've got these things together, but I want to kind of move them. I want the star in a different position to the pentagon. So instead of going to ungroup and then moving around and then regrouping them, what you can do is just double clicking them and think of it as going inside that group. We've kind of dived inside. Everything else is grayed out. It's not important now. We're inside this group. Okay, now these guys are separate again. So I can go, actually, I want my star to be, I don't know why, but you want it down there. And what it means is I can click this arrow to go back to layer one and then all the way out to exit isolation mode. Just keep smashing away at that little arrow until it goes away. And now there's still a group. Okay, but you are able to dive inside and change it. So I'm going to dive inside again, grab it, stick it back roughly in the middle, roughly enough. I'm going to select both of them and arrange them. And again, you can keep clicking on the arrow to go back or double click the background. That kind of jumps you out like a bit of a quicker shortcut. So if you ever get lost and think you're like, man, that thing's not working, it's not locked, or from inside of here, you can see a lot of these things don't work. These menu items, they're all grayed out. Because we're in this kind of like special world, isolation mode. Double click the background to come out, everything will come back to normal. So if you're lost, click the arrow or double click the background and you can come out. Hopefully you can see the use of isolation mode. Let's look at another thing. So I'm going to work on both of these little feet here. I'm going to click on this. We're going to click the edges member of this foot. I'm going to click fill. I'm going to pick an orange just randomly from in here. And I'm going to have stroke of none. I'm going to click this fella, this other foot, and I'm going to do the same thing. I need a slightly darker orange. Okay, and I'm going to have a stroke of none. Now the trouble is that this one that I want kind of at the back is in front of my front foot, just because I drew him last. Okay, whatever you draw ends up on top of the last things. So what I can do is I can select them, I can go to arrange, and I can go to send to back. There you go. That's how to arrange things. We're going to do lots of arranging now to kind of get the layer order all right. You can use layers, but in Illustrator, unlike something like Photoshop, you generally only have one layer that you work on. You can have more, but because these are all kind of individual vector objects in Illustrator, it allows you just to kind of arrange them and bring them to the front. If you want this guy at the front now, I can click on arrange and say bring to the front, arrange and send it back. One other really useful thing to know before we go through and start coloring this stuff is that, watch this. If I grab my penguin, I'm just grabbing all the penguin bits. Okay, so I've just dragged a box. Instead of holding shift, okay, and shift clicking it all, that would work. Okay, it'll be there for a long time. What you can do with your black arrow and just click, hold, and drag a box kind of roughly around. Can you see I haven't covered the feet because I don't want that rectangle at the bottom, which is my ground. I'm going to go just above there. And because I've overlapped those last little objects, it should select them all. That's one way of doing it. What I'd like you to do is, by default, I can't exactly remember whether it's on or off. I'm going to show you both ways. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale this down. So I've got everything selected. I'm going to hold my shift so it scales it proportionally. Grab the corner. I'm going to scale him right down to be a teeny tiny version of my penguin. Something weird happens, right? Okay, all of the strokes they don't scale down proportionately. Okay, that is still like a nice solid, where's my eye in the middle here? Remember we made him 4 point? He's still 4 point. So I'm going to undo. So there's going to be times where you need that to scale down, where you want these strokes just to remain the exact size you told them to be. So to do that, let's click off in the background. We've got nothing selected. There's this option here that says Scale, Stroke, and Effects. Okay, so with nothing selected, you can turn it on and off. You'll be turning it on and off reasonably. For me, I turn it on and off quite often. Okay, so I've got it off. I'm going to drag and grab all of these guys. I'm going to shrink them right down to be a little mini penguin. And you see all the strokes came along for the ride. Other than to see a tiny penguin, I only wanted to show you that little technique, okay, before we move on. So I'm going to undo, so he's back to his regular size. When would you want to use this? Let's say that you're drawing something that's a bit more, say you're a fashion designer and you need like a stitch, okay? And you need to resize it, but you need that stitching detail to stay the same. Or say you're drawing, like I've taught urban planners, Illustrator gets used by lots of different people. Say this is a road, okay? And this is another road. Say these are not feathers, these are roads, okay? And I want to scale them up and down, but I want them to keep the same thickness to match everything else that's in my document. Okay, so I want to scale it up and down, but I want to retain the thickness. But most of the time, have nothing selected, just make sure it's on. That's, I bet you probably 70% of the time, you're just going to need to leave it on. But no, that's where it is. When you want to scale it down, you can turn it off and it will keep its stroke size. All right, we're going to work through and color this fella using our newfound grouping arranging techniques. I'm going to click on the body. I'm going to say, you, my friend, have got a fill of black and a stroke of white. Actually, I might do him last because he kind of makes these a little bit harder to use. So I'm going to click on him. I'm going to hold shift and click on the eye because I want to do the same thing. I want them both to have a white center and no stroke, please. Awesome. I'm going to click on the body and I want the body to have a fill of white. And nope, I want it to have a fill of black and I'd like to have no stroke. Okay, so my alignment's actually working out fine, except for my little flipper here. You can kind of see him. So it's a little bit hard to find that flipper. I can kind of roll around and eventually find him, and that's actually probably just perfect. Click on him, and I can say, you, my friend, have a fill of black, a stroke of white, and I want to bring you to the front by going to Arrange and say, bring to front. Another way to do it, I'm going to undo. Okay, so I can't see it right. There is a kind of a skeleton view you can use. It's called Outline. If you go to View and go to this one that says Outline, okay, it's a common thing to use, Command Y, okay, or Control Y. Can you see it's just like a really wireframe version? So you can do things like actually click on him because he's easy to see in this view. I can go to Arrange, bring him to front, then go to View, and so can you see Command Y toggles between GPU view, which is not a sexy way of calling it, but it's just toggles Outline, GPU, Outline, GPU. So I do that quite a bit. If I lose something, I'm like, I'm pretty sure there was a flipper here somewhere. I can just go to Command Y on my Mac or Control Y on my PC and just kind of select them. So I'm going to grab you. I'm going to give him a no stroke. I want you to be the same. You are going to have no stroke and a black fill, my little beak. I'm going to grab you, who are nicely grouped, my little sheriff's badge. Penguin. You notice I should have selected all of these in one go because they're all doing the same thing. I can do another little trick is, can you see this little eyedropper tool here? Okay, it's this eyedropper tool. So to make it work, I have this selected, okay, the outside of it, grab my eyedropper tool and then click on the middle of my beak here and it goes and steals the same setting. So it changes the fill and the stroke to match it. It's a handy little advanced one. All right, what I might do is I might grab this. This is going to be a fill of some sort of gray thing here. And I'm gonna show you a few other color options. So gray, I'm not sure why it's gray, it's ice, or I just want a really monochromatic design. This edge of this for the water, what I'm gonna do is, say you've got these presets in here, okay? These are pre-mixed, they're called swatches. Adobe has just said, these are the ones, these are some defaults, and they're good. But say you want your own custom color. See this little icon here, color mixer? Okay, it gives you the option down the bottom for this thing here called the RGB spectrum. And it's just a little rainbow color thing. Click anywhere in it, and it's the tip of the little eyedropper will be the color. So you can pick any old color you like. Move it around, pick any old color down, come on. That's gonna work for me, ish. No, a bit more green. All right, I'm gonna get rid of the strokes on these guys. Same with you, goodbye stroke. And now I'm just messing around. You can skip through to the next video now. I'm gonna go through and color all of these, holding shift to grab them all. Here we go. I'm gonna go fill the white. Now remember, if you wanna go back to the swatches, click on this first one. And I'm gonna have a stroke of none. I'm gonna put in a little bit of a background color because I wanna see my white belly a little bit better. So I'm gonna put in, you can't change the background color. Okay, you know it's white there, the page color. You can't just go and say set background color on like you can on some programs. You actually have to draw a box. So rectangle tool, I'm gonna draw it all the way across, covering the whole thing. I'm gonna give it a color of that really light gray. There we go. And I'm gonna give it a stroke of none. I'm gonna say arrange, send it back please. And it just means that you can see my little belly of my dude there. And if you're like me, I don't like his little pot belly now. I'm gonna click on him, click on that guy once to get the corner, and just drag him back down so he's got a nice square belly. Move my feet in a little bit so you can kind of see that it's got feet either side. All right, so that's us for this video. We have created a little pot belly content penguin. What I'd like to do is set you a task now. Okay, so I'd like you to create your own creature. The boundaries are you have to use the tools we've learned in the last 3 videos. So just things like simple shapes like our triangles, pentagons, stars, rectangles, the corners you can use. I don't want you to use any of the other tools, just these simple tools we've used. The other thing is let's keep our animals. I'm going to give you some boundaries. We're going for ocean going animals. It could be in the sea or like our penguin kind of related to the sea. So pick another animal, and doesn't matter whether you hand draw it and then scan it in or whether you just draw it straight in Illustrator. It's up to you. Now remember, this is your first drawing, so don't worry if you're like, oh, isn't that good? I would love to see it, okay? So if you take a screenshot or save this as a JPEG, if you're not sure how to save a JPEG, we'll do it later in the course. Okay, you look for a video called exporting from Illustrator. You can kind of sneak ahead to that one just so you can get the JPEG out, or just do a screenshot. And I'd love for you to upload and tag it to me in Twitter and Instagram. So on Twitter, I am Dan Loves Adobe. Also tag in Tuts Plus, okay? So Envato Tuts Plus, they are Tuts Plus Design on Twitter. And on Instagram, I am Bring Your Own Laptop. Tag me in, I'd love to see what you did. So pause it now, go do that, and then I will see you in the next video where we start looking at something called the Shape Builder tool. All right, I'll see you there. Hello and welcome. This video is all about the Shape Builder tool. We're going to take the drawing we did earlier, this one, and do this to it. What do we do? Okay, we cast some shadows. Can you see before, after? We cast some shadows on the penguin, okay, using a real quick and easy tool using the Shape Builder. We also did some stuff with the eye there where it's kind of a pie shape cut out of the circle. If you have tried Illustrator before and you've messed around with the Pathfinder and thought it was really tough, this is a replacement for it. It is awesome. You'll love it. I've spent far too much time hyping this up. Let's just jump in